The Godfather, Mel Kiper Jr., has a brand new mock draft, so we're going to react to it and break it down today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every single day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
The Mel Kiper putting out a mock is such a nice, final tip into the combine testing.
Yeah.
Maybe a little rude to Mel that you made him post it right before the testing happens and players inevitably drive up or drive down their stock value. But that's why it's not the last one that Mel's going to do, I guess.
I was a little surprised by the timing as well, but also I love mock drafts. I really enjoy Mel Kiper, and so it was a real treat, and I'm anxious to kind of see this and then compare it to what everyone's saying coming out of the combine next week. And, of course, we're going to have our own mock draft next week on the podcast.
Very good.
So this is a nice foundation and a nice measuring stick compared to, who we'll see who the real risers and fallers are going to be.
Yeah. So I, being in Indianapolis.
They played the Pelicans last night, Kyle.
They did. They were up 15 the whole game. Did they win?
Oh, really? I have no idea, man. No idea.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall. I have not seen the mock yet. So I'm blind on the picks. I obviously see in the right-hand third here what the buzzy things are, and we're going to talk about Jayden Daniels. I'm assuming QB2 going to Washington.
How about this, Kyle? How about I just bring up the surprising stuff and let's talk about it? Yeah. You don't have to. You don't have to see it.
I'll just sit back, relax,
chill out.
Yeah, move my microphone back.
Yeah. Just get comfortable, but keep careful on the camera angles. Careful. There we go.
I'm not going to tip the camera over like I did the other day.
That was really weird. Okay, let's get into it. The first notable thing is that we now see Jayden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU, going higher than Drake Maye. Not much higher, one spot higher, but Daniels to the Commanders at 2, Drake Maye to the Patriots at 3. Here it is. And I, you've seen a lot of variance in how these quarterbacks are starting to shake up. I mean, even some situations where JJ McCarthy's is shooting up, but Mel Kiper with Daniels over Maye. Here we go. Let's talk about it.
It's a ceiling play, right? As far as the athleticism, I don't think there's any question that Drake Maye is a good athlete at quarterback, but Jayden Daniels is a electric athlete at quarterback. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like that's something that Washington covets with their quarterback decision, is the dynamic play element of it. And from a film perspective, there's nobody that's hotter than Jayden Daniels, right? So I get it. If you're basing it off of the most recent resume that they had, which was this past season, I don't know how you look at the two and you don't think that Daniels is a higher ceiling player, and obviously he performed better outside of a vacuum, or in a vacuum too.
Let me take it to this angle here. Sean Payton had a quote this week about how NFL defenses are forcing quarterbacks to win from the pocket. And I tend to agree with that. And I think you want to be able to do the special stuff off script. It really does matter. It moves the needle in some high leverage situations. You want to be able to have those moments. But I think more important than it's been, maybe if you look at this, maybe the last 7 years of the NFL, I think over the last 1 or 2, I think that ability to win from the pocket and do the smart right thing with the football on schedule is starting to matter a ton as you're seeing more too high shells, more quarters coverage, testing these dynamic quarterbacks to be patient and take what the defense gives them as opposed to looking for some big plays. I think one of the biggest things about Patrick Mahomes this year was that ability to harness the special and do the normal and sprinkle in the special when it had to be done. Don't you feel like Drake Maye is more aligned with that thought process in addition to Cliff Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator for the Commanders? Like, I certainly think a lot about that as I'm projecting this.
I don't know. It sounds like we're getting deeper into this process, and maybe Drake Maye's not the bill of goods that he was assumed to be. Imagine that. You let this process play out. Maybe the impressions of the players will change. But it sounds like league circles are a little less buzzy on Drake Maye right now.
Yeah.
No, but I don't want to do a whole show on Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels. So let's what else you got for me in the first?
All right.
10 days?
So check this out. More surprising than Jayden Daniels being QB2 is who Mel has at OT1. Kyle Krabs, JC Latham, OT1, going to the Chargers at number 5, 2 spots ahead of Joe Alt. And those are your only 2 offensive linemen in the top 10.
Are you sure?
I'm sure based on this.
Is there a typo?
No,
is it a DL instead of an OL?
No, it's, brother, JC Latham pick 5 to the Chargers.
So I guess it makes sense when you consider what they're talking about in LA, what they want to be, what they're going to be offensively. We're going to run the ball. Imagine Justin Herbert with a run game, right? They want to be big and physical up front. They need a right tackle as opposed to a left tackle with Slater in the building. So I guess there's enough logic to why the pick is the pick that I get why he made the pick. I don't know. Are you really going to let left tackle, right tackle dictate your pick at 5?
Let's not act like the NFL hasn't done this, man. We've seen these types of decisions. Remember Tyson Jackson when the Falcons were switching to like the odd front defense and they had to have a 5 tech? They're like, we got to pick them. We have to do it, right? Like you see this happen all the time. It's incredible.
So that's a very interesting pick for him to be OT1 and a top 5 pick. I've heard he's going to test well,
which will be good for him, right?
Yeah.
That big, massive tackle that tests well. That's going to be important.
So
we'll see. A little nervous about those feet. Let me bring up this last one here in the top 10 that really stands out to me, and it's the order of the wide receivers because I think there's some prospect fatigue with Marvin Harrison Jr., which makes no sense to me at all, like literally none. He's the first wide receiver.
Okay.
But no, he's the first receiver. We're good here. You can exhale there.
Odunze
but
too.
Yes, and here's the deal. Is you've seen people respond to Marvin Harrison and say, I think Malik Nabers is every bit as good of a prospect. He's got Rome Odunze going 6 to the Giants. And then Malik Nabers falls to 9 to the Bears.
Chicago should throw themselves a parade for that.
Williams at 1 and Nabers at 9. We might get 4,000 yards.
And DJ Moore.
Yeah.
And presumably whatever you're going to get from the Falcons for Justin Fields. It sounds like that's the way that's going. You could get an early day 2 pick. Get a midday 2 pick with a conditional 2025 pick. Man. There's no way that happens, though. I refuse to buy Mel on that one.
No, because you would need, it would have to go a certain way. You would need for the Chargers to go tackle, which feels like there's some momentum there. You would need the Giants to pick Odunze over Nabers. You would need a team to not trade up for Nabers.
You would need Nabers to, bomb his pre-draft process as effectively as what you're saying.
Yeah.
To get the 9.
All right. So plenty of surprises in the top 9, but I do want to start our next segment with pick 10, and I'll go ahead and spoil it. He's got Brock Bowers going to the Jets. I want to talk about that here in just a moment, so be sure to stick with us. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Have you ever considered what you would do if you had an extra hour in your day? Would you exercise, read, spend time with family and friends, maybe catch up on some sleep? A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you, make it a priority. Therapy can help you find out what matters to you so you can do more of it. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries, and empowers you to be the best version of yourself. Therapy is not just for people who have experienced major trauma. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
So Bowers 10 to the Jets.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm too surprised by this because we kind of heard the buzz last year about the Jets considering a tight end with their pick at 15? Wasn't like Maye was on like their short list for 15?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, we based on some of their video content that came out. Yeah, like they wanted you to know that. They were thinking about that. Yeah.
So I think you consider the tight end room that they have, and obviously they made a draft investment in Jeremy Ruckert, and they had Conklin has been a solid player there. Mm-hmm. Uzoma kind of feels like he's fallen out of favor a little bit. I don't think Conklin or Uzoma prevent you from drafting best player available by any means. I guess the concern is with the other issues that the Jets have. How are you going to go about addressing the 3.5 spots, technically probably 4 or 5 roster spots that you need for new offensive linemen? Mm-hmm. Quality offensive linemen, assembling an offensive lineman effectively from scratch beyond Joe Tippmann and what you can and can't trust from Elijah Vera Tucker. What can you do about a wide receiver 2? And I know obviously the board didn't break well for them at 10 to get a wide receiver 2, so I'm sympathetic to that. But this team has about half their contracts on the defensive line are expiring contracts as well. Now you could say, "Oh, Will McDonald," and we're certainly not going to take a top 10 pick and invested in a rotational defensive lineman. But they just did that last year. So, like, it wouldn't surprise me if they did that.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind goes when I hear Brock Bowers. It's like, okay, like it's going to be hard to call it a bad pick. I'm not surprised the Jets picked the tight end because of their appetite for it last year. But in this offensive line class, it just kind of feels like a missed opportunity to address what killed their season last year, if we're being honest.
Yep. And yeah, dude, that's what it comes down to. Brock Bowers, good football player. No issues with picking him at 10. It's just hard to reconcile when you feel like this team needs 3 starters on the O-line, including 2 tackles, and Aaron Rodgers coming back of injury. It's kind of crazy to me. I can appreciate, like, if it was a receiver, maybe that would have been more digestible, but I could tell you that the Bills last year, when they went into the draft, their entire philosophy was we want an offensive weapon that can create matchup issues for opponents. Mm-hmm. And if whether that was a tight end or a wide receiver, it didn't matter, right? They just wanted that piece. And so I can appreciate that, but man, that offensive line is just not where it needs to be at all. I guess Broncos fans can go ahead and order their JJ McCarthy jersey. That's starting to be a really common marriage. We'll see.
Love and Marriage. You ever watch that show?
What show is it? No,
Love and Marriage?
No.
I just know the theme song. I used to watch. It always used to be on TV at my grand.
I've heard the song. I didn't know that it was affiliated with a show. I thought it. So while you're looking that up,
it's Married with Children.
Yeah, I've heard of the show. I never watched it.
It's Al Bundy.
Yeah,
with Ed O'Neill.
I know these funny people. Yeah. I remember.
Did you know Christina Applegate was in that?
No, I clearly I didn't know that.
Man, I'm gonna have to go watch some Married with Children when we're done.
Yeah.
It's you're gonna be watching me. I'm in the convention center in Indianapolis for the combine, and I'm gonna have Love and Marriage. I'll watch it. Al Bundy highlights.
Kyle walking around with his phone.
Love and Marriage playing on a loop.
Incredible. What's up with Olu Fashanu, Kyle? What's up? What's happening here? This was like, I can't believe he's going back to school. This is the number 1 tackle, a top 5 pick. 14 in this draft, and that's a high pick. It's great, but like,
what's that? The third tackle?
It's the 3rd tackle. 14 to the Saints. Logical pick for the Saints, but is there a little slide going on here with Fashanu?
So here's the deal. Here's what happens when you go back to school. You got to get better, and if you don't, this is what happens. So I think Olu Fashanu, obviously the athleticism is through the roof. Still has so much universal appeal as a NFL prospect. But Joe Alt came into this season and had questions from his previous season, and he got better. Those questions were diminished. Whereas I think for Olu Fashanu, the same technical lapses at times, the same inconsistencies in his game, they never went away. So now it's like, okay, he's shown us for 2 years this is who he is. It's going to be maybe a little harder to continue his developmental curve at a rate that we're comfortable with. So I'm not surprised. And I remember when I did my first write-up for Olu Fashanu, I was like, man, like the reputation here is this is a bona fide top 5 pick. And I think he's got to grow a little bit since then. And it's been a season and a half of college football since that happened. It's been like 18 months since I wrote that. And I still feel the same way. So I think that's what's happening with Olu Fashanu.
The best pick in this first round to me happens at number 18, the Cincinnati Bengals. They get Talise Fuaga, Oregon State offensive tackle. How good's that? How good is that of a pick for Cincy?
Congratulations. No longer a right tackle sore spot for you after Lyle Collins and Jonah Williams.
Right.
You guys should be in pretty good shape.
Dude, that is just dreamy. I know that it feels like Bowers is a common pick for the Bengals, but like Fuaga's on the board. You got to pick him. And then like, what if they come away with like a combo of Fuaga and that tight end from Texas, Jatavian Sanders? Like,
can't happen,
brother. Yeah.
Can't happen.
That would be terrific. Let me ask you about one more pick here in this block. It's the Rams. They get Cooper DeJean, defensive back from Iowa. He's a baller, right? Like he's a good football player.
Outstanding ball skills. Yeah.
How would you see him fitting in? I know that they run a ton of quarters. They run a ton of split zone stuff. You think that for that team with Fuller and Johnson are both free agents? You feel like they could use him? You play him at corner?
Yeah.
Is that you think that's universal? You think some teams will look at him as a safety?
I think the only reason let's be honest. If he wasn't like, everybody remember like the team white versus team black debate that who was it that started that? It was what NFL running back was it?
Brother, I don't know. MJD usually.
So if that whole saga didn't happen, I don't think people bat their eyes so much at the safety stuff for DeJean, but he's a outside corner that played with a vision zone defense in Iowa. And I think a player like that in in this kind of system, play him outside because he's an elite athlete. Like he's going to jump in the high 30s. He's going to run in the 4.4. Now, I don't think he's testing this week because he still had the foot injury that ended his season. So that was like a big disappointment.
I've seen enough tape to know that I have zero concerns about the athleticism.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would play him in outside corner in that system. And I think he can thrive in that system. So I think that's a really good fit for DeJean.
All right, in the last segment, we got to react to the Bills and Dolphins pick, plus a run on tackles, some corners that go late, some new names, Kyle Krabs. A lot to get to, so stick with us. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. They've also got football's futures, NHL, whatever sports you're into. FanDuel has some action that you can check out, and this deal is incredible. Again, new customers get $150 in bonus bets if you have a winning $5 bet. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. You just splash us? Did you just hit a corner?
Get buckets. So
get buckets. Yeah, I like that. That's a fun start to a read. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's always fun when you can come in with something spicy like that.
Yeah.
Like the Zach's Mighty reads were like that.
Oh, the best.
I was just talking with Ross Jackson about Zach's Mighty reads yesterday.
They're good.
And I was like, I was got a confession to make, Ross. I didn't stay completely on the script. I used the name of the bozo from my hometown league from high school as the idiot fantasy player.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah.
Well,
everybody found out too. Oh, well.
For those of you not living in the world of ad reads, some of them you have to stick to the script, and some of them they really want you to freelance. And you just never know. You never know.
So we don't need to do this now, but I would love to hear your thoughts at some point down the road about like the gift of doing a read and who you think's really good at it.
Yeah, we're not talking about that right now.
No, that's a whole show. Like
there's people. We get some YouTube comments that are like, "Can Kyle do some ad reads?"
No, I can. Yeah, listen to Locked On Dolphins. I do all the same reads Joe does.
Check them out. You really want to know how Kyle does it? Yeah, just check out Locked On Dolphins. We have a production flow here. Like we got a system in place.
I push the buttons. So if there's a screw up with the buttons, it's my fault.
High level stuff. Kyle, don't give them all the secrets.
If
Kyle.
there's a break in the video, it means Joe messed up and we had to cut it.
All right. Graham Barton, you are a Miami Dolphin.
Oh, okay. I get it. I'm going to cheat, though. I'm going to look at... So the appeal with Graham Barton is he played center his freshman year. So you know he can play on the inside. You know he can play at tackle. The Dolphins have needs at all three interior offensive line spots. Isaiah Wynn, expiring contract left guard. Connor Williams, expiring contract center. Robert Hunt, expiring contract. Sounds like the Brad Spielberger forecast for Robert Hunt is probably going to be pretty accurate, by the way, from what I'm hearing this week. So
17 and a quarter.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be Dolphins. Additionally, free agency. And
you have to be on the hunt for a new guard, you know? Oh, man.
Just log off.
Oh, man, that was good. That was good.
So Barton makes a lot of sense. But if I'm looking at who goes behind him, I'll be honest with the guys that Mel has that don't come off the board. For the rest of the first round, it's pretty easy to digest. But then I look at players that didn't make the first round, and I see Jackson Powers Johnson did not go in the first round, and I assume that's a medical thing. He has some medical stuff, but if they were like, he's tailor-made for addressing a need, but also kind of changing their identity, which is what they need. They need to get more physical up front. And I think that would be my concern with Barton. But I think it's a fairly high floor pick for sure.
It's going to be the Duke center left guard combo for the Dolphins and Graham Barton and Laken Tomlinson, right? It's destiny.
If you told me they signed Laken Tomlinson for 4 minutes, I had somebody tell me on my YouTube channel yesterday that you can't contend for playoff wins in a Super Bowl with players that other teams cut.
Oh, man.
Because I did a whole show on, like, are these recent cuts like good fits for Miami? And they're like, you can't compete for a Super Bowl with players that other teams cut. And I'm like, okay, do you want to talk about how Steve Smith was the leading receiver in 2014 for the Ravens after getting cut by the Panthers, and they were 4 points away from playing in the AFC Championship game? Do you want to talk about how
the AFC Championship game, obviously.
The Kansas City Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with a starting left tackle that was cut by another team the previous year. And the team that they beat in the Super Bowl had 2/5 of their starting offensive line were players that were cut from other teams. You're talking about the Bills cut Wyatt Teller.
We traded Wyatt Teller.
Did you
got a
trade
couple
one
of day 3 picks, Kyle
Okay.
Krabs for
Okay.
Wyatt Teller? Get out of here.
Okay. So then that
Help
one
us
goes
get
away.
Stephon Diggs.
I was on a mission, and I'm like, dude, I'm out the combine. I'm not going to.
Bills haven't won the Super Bowl, Kyle. I don't know if you're aware.
They've
They
been
haven't.
contending. Well, the point was the Browns getting a player in Wyatt Teller's caliber from a team that gave up on him.
That was not a good move. It was not a good move.
I'm off the soapbox. Go ahead.
Speaking of the Bills, they have Mel Kiper Jr. has the Bills drafting Brian Thomas, the wide receiver from LSU. I think in a lot of ways.
You watched his tape, right?
I did watch his tape. If you want that size and speed down the field, Brian Thomas, that's what he can do. He certainly has that. And I think there's a good idea to be had in terms of getting that type of player. Because I feel like they need a field stretcher that would then open up a lot for very good underneath targets in a Khalil Shakir, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid. I think you have those players and it helps maximize it. I think there's some limitations to Brian Thomas, and I think that's the world you have to live in kind of late in the first round. So I would understand it. I'm not in love with Brian Thomas. I'll tell you that as a prospect. I think there's a lot that he has to fix. Route running is not there. I don't love his hands. So I think there's 1 year of production. I don't know. He gives me some concerns, but I understand the skill set and the fit. Kyle Krabs, looking at the end of this mock draft, we always kind of come back to the back 25% because I feel like that's where you see the most different things compared to other mocks. And I think this is a great example of it. We get a couple of corners here. TJ Tampa out of Iowa State to the Lions at 29. Kamari Lassiter, Georgia corner to the Ravens at 30. Those are not common first round names at all.
Tampa's a good player though.
Yes, and we've had some conversations in some of our circles about him, and I've never heard anything but good things. But new names, right? We normally see Ennis Rakestraw, we see Kool-Aid McKinstry. Those guys aren't in. TJ Tampa, Kamari Lassiter.
Yeah, Tampa's he's so long, and that's kind of the buzz these days, right? So, I think about for Detroit, what they. Was it Jerry Jacobs is kind of that type of player. So they just need help at corner that they don't have size, athleticism at corner combination. And it's a sort of like Kendall Vildor is a starting corner.
Yeah, it can't happen.
For the Detroit Lions playing
can't go to war with
championship, right? Like you can't. Like that's a special teams player, and he's your starting outside corner.
Yeah.
So I love addressing the need for them. And I think it's a good player. I'm not going to take a huge exception with him going over Kool-Aid McKinstry or Rakestraw. I think it's fine.
First tape that I watched of Brian Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, was against Missouri. And boy, did I like Rakestraw in that game. Did I like him a ton. I have one more thing that I want to bring up here. Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas, goes 13 to the Raiders.
Tejas.
Good pick. Tejas. Yeah, cool with that. Johnny Newton, tackle from Illinois, not in this mock draft. He wasn't in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. Come on, man. Like, what am I missing here? So Newton's a stud.
So I know he's not testing because of foot surgery. So I don't know if that's the cold water here. I don't know if he is a little undersized, right?
So is Murphy. I know Murphy's a friggin' tank, man.
Yeah,
like
he's like
the guy's front squatting 450. Come on.
He's like what, 305, 310?
Yeah, he's so dense, man.
But he's short. Whereas
I kind of like that.
What Newton is, I think, was listed at 295. Maybe is not even that. But I don't know. You contrast that with Kalijah Cansey, and it's like, what are we doing here? Right? Like, how does Kalijah Cansey end up as a 280-pound defensive tackle going in the top 20, and Johnny Newton's falling out altogether? When I like Johnny Newton's tape more than Kalijah Cansey's tape. I don't think he has the same first step as Kalijah Cansey, but like as an overall player, I think I like Johnny Newton more. So we'll see. We shall see. that is going to do for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Krabs. He is Joe Marino. You got me tomorrow, the draft dude, the draft man on Friday. Joe Marino is out of the office.
Man.
So you enjoy yourself.
You can get my voicemail.
And everybody can hear me do the ad reads tomorrow as well.
Yeah, it's a big day. It's a big day.
Hey, when did you set up the voicemail inbox?
Kyle, I didn't. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't set up my voicemail. I don't know what happened, but somehow I got a voicemail.
But it's not just the caller's unavailable, beep. It's your voice. You
right, because that was something that when I had a voicemail 15 years ago, that's what I did. And then all of a sudden, my wife last week, she's like, you set up your voicemail? I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't do anything with my voicemail, not a thing. And all of a sudden, I have voicemail. It's a nightmare.
I'm very pleased to leave you all.
I got to figure out my mission on my baby moon is we're getting rid of the voicemail. I got to figure this out.
All right. Well, let's get you out of here. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We'll be back again tomorrow for more NFL Combine talk. So come back and see us. Enjoy the rest of your day.